Alright, so this video is going to be over stage 2. It's going to be like a help video. It's also going to go over some of the practice work problems that was on the stage 2 practice work, so it'll help you out with that. So this is just a little example here to start with. The biggest thing with stage 2 is the negative exponents. So with the negative exponents, we need to think about that the way I like to think about it is it allows us to travel across division. Alright, so that's what the negative exponent is like. It's allowing us to travel, or it's allowing us to travel to the other part of the fraction. So looking at this here, if you think about x to the negative 3 as a fraction, it'd be x to the negative 3 over 1. And with that, when we say travel, it's going to make it travel from the numerator to the denominator in this case. So the x here is going to then travel, so if we say equals our fraction, the x now is going to travel to the denominator. So I'm going to draw, you can draw an arrow over here. I'm going to do it in red here actually. Draw an arrow over. So it's going to be x in the denominator. Now, but when it travels, after you make it travel, the exponent turns positive. So instead of a negative 3 now, it's going to be a positive 3 up there. So in the denominator now, it's x cubed in the denominator instead of an x to the negative 3, but it's now in the denominator. Okay, so think about that. The negative exponent allows it to travel from the numerator to the denominator of a fraction, or across the division, as you can say, because division, a fraction is division, and then it turns the exponent positive. Now, you can ask yourself, well, what's out up and top in there? What's in front of that? Well, what was the number out in front of the x to the negative 3? Well, there's like that 1. You remember it's 1 times x to the negative 3. So that 1 actually comes back over, and that's still remaining on top, so that's why it's a 1. So that would have been the answer right there. So looking at here, let's look at, so that's actually really similar to number 1 on the stage 2 practice work. Let's look at number 2 here. Let's look at number 2 for this one. So this is number 2 from the stage 2 practice work, and it is a b to the negative 2. Okay, so like I always like I did on the last one here, I would write it as a fraction to start. So put it over 1. In this case, it's over 1. All right, because whenever it's not written as a fraction, you can just divide by 1, and it's still the same thing. Okay, now think about this. Only the stuff that has a negative exponent gets to travel to the other part of the fraction. Okay, so if you're just looking at this a, so I'm going to underline it here. The exponent for the a is actually a 1. Okay, it's not the negative 2, it's only the 1. We just don't have to write that 1 there. Now that's a positive 1. So we can't travel that one. That one doesn't get to travel anywhere. So since it's in the numerator, it's going to stay in the numerator, and it's just going to be up in the top. So I'm just going to write a. You could write the 1 there if you want still, but you don't have to. Now I'm going to look at the b. I'm going to underline it. Actually, I'm going to box it here, something like that. It is b to the negative 2. Okay? So that has a negative exponent. That means we get to have it travel. So it gets to travel to the other part of the fraction. So since it's currently in the numerator, it's going to travel to the denominator. And so it's going to make the b travel to the denominator here. And instead of it now, after we make it travel, it's going to turn from a negative exponent to a positive exponent. So we have, oops, that was a bad 2 there, a over b squared. You can't simplify this anymore, so that's the answer. So just remember, the negative exponent makes it travel. And then once it travels to the other part of the fraction or across the division, then the exponent turns positive. All right, so let's look at, let's jump to, let's say, number 4 here. Okay, so number 4 from stage 2 worksheet. It is 1 over a to the negative 2. All right, so with this one, think about the negative exponent makes it travel. So if you want, like I said, make your fraction right away, okay? Now make it travel, okay? Find out where the a has the negative exponent. It has a negative 2. So that means the a is going to travel from the bottom of the fraction, because that's where we're currently at, up to the top, which makes it a up in the top. Now we said it, though, when we make it travel, after it's traveled, the exponent's got to turn positive. So instead of a negative 2, it's going to be a positive 2. Now you got to remember here, there is that 1 times a to the negative 2 in the bottom, so that 1 is still on the bottom here. But anything divided by 1 is still a squared. So that is a squared is for number 4. Now let's look at one like number 7. Okay, so let's look at number 7 here. Number 7 is 5x to the negative 2. Okay, so this is very similar to like number 2 here. Okay, so make it a fraction to begin with. Then ask yourself, do you have a fraction at the end of the answer? And if you don't need the fraction, you can always get rid of it. Okay, ask yourself, does each part get to travel? So looking at the 5 here first. The exponent there is actually a 1. We just don't write it there. It's not the negative 2. It's only the 1. The 1 is not, it's like, you can't say it's kind of an imaginary 1, but it's not. It's technically there. We just don't write it. So that's a positive 1, though. So the 5 is going to stay on the top. It does not get to travel. Okay, now let's look at the x negative 2, x to the negative 2. This one has a negative exponent. So that means the x is going to travel to the bottom, and then the exponent now, instead of being a negative 2 after we traveled, is going to turn to a positive 2. So that would be the answer, 5 over x to the negative 2. Okay. I hope this video helps out. If you have any more questions, please reach out to us and we'll help you out with these. Okay. Also check the answer key for further answers.